الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد, all praise is due to Allah, and we ask Allah to exalt the mentioning grant peace to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to his companions and all those who follow them on the righteous path until the day of judgment. If you're hungry, then you have chosen the wrong location, even though the title may suggest otherwise. Half the soup. Whoever has figured out what it means, what I'm going to discuss. In fact, the person who tells me what this lecture is about, according to the title, I promise I will give him nothing. Inshallah. Wallahi. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But who can figure it out? Half the soup. Huh? Anyone?
Food etiquettes.
Food etiquettes?
Yeah. Half the deen, 50-50.
Half of the deen. The deen is soup? Yeah, Sheikh. Good try. Malish. It's a little joke. Don't take it personal. Huh? No, it's not food stuff. It's not half of the deen.
Half knowledge.
Knowledge is soup again. You brothers must be hungry.
In-laws.
Huh?
In-laws.
In-laws. Wallah, you got closer than the rest.
The family life, husband and wife. Incomplete.
Incomplete what? Sentence? Huh? Ihsan. Half the soup. Ladies, anyone? Sisters? Wow, I thought at least some would figure it out. I think somebody told me that they knew what it was about. طيب. I will leave it as a surprise. Well, I cannot leave it as a surprise for too long because I'm going to start the lecture very soon. But you will know why it was called half the soup eventually during the lecture. I'm not going to give it away from the get-go. So be patient, inshallah. But now let us quote an ayah from the book of Allah Ta'ala. Ouch! Rights of the neighbors. You know, we discussed the rights of parents, and in previous lectures we discussed the rights of the spouses, husband and wife, and we've discussed the rights of children by Allah's grace and mercy. And the neighbors, our poor neighbors, it's really an issue that is hardly ever addressed. So much so that maybe many of us are not even aware of the rights of the neighbors, even though, as you will see, that there are many rights that will at least make us realize that we are not doing our job. And perhaps beginning tomorrow, if tonight is too late, we will start a new manner, a new way in which we deal with our neighbors. We will see why, and we will see the narrations. The ayah says, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. We used this in the lecture of the rights of parents. But the ayah continued, وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَالْجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُبِ وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ وَمَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ مَنْ كَانَ مُخْتَالًا فَخُورًا. Worship Allah and join none with Him in worship, and do good to parents, kinsfolk, orphans, the poor, the neighbor who is near of kin, your relative, who's also a neighbor, the neighbor who is a stranger, someone who's not related to you, the companion by your side, the wayfarer you meet, and those slaves whom your right hand possess. Verily, your right hands possess, verily Allah does not like such as are proud and boastful. So in this ayah, Allah mentioned the rights of the neighbors amongst the rights of many others. And it came somewhere in between, emphasizing the importance of the rights of neighbors. Now the Prophet ﷺ had said, Jibreel, everyone knows Jibreel? Who's Jibreel? Everyone knows and no one answers. Leader of what? Malaika. Okay, no, not bad. He's among the greatest of Malaika for sure. What is his job? Bringing revelation to the messengers. Does he also destroy nations? Yes, at times. Like the people of Lut. Jibreel alayhi salam put his wing in the ground and picked him up in the sky, turned him upside down and then slammed him back down. Then birds threw stones at them, and the people of Lut were punished in a very unique way, unlike the rest of the nations. He wants the VIP. Ma fi mushkila. Jibreel kept on enjoining the good treatment of neighbors to the extent that I thought that he would include neighbors as heirs. They would inherit. When someone dies and there's those who inherit the person, he thought that there was so much reminder, so much advice and concerning the rights of neighbors that they would be included. That when you pass away, then your neighbor will get some of your money after you pass away. Because of how often Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam would bring to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam revelation from Allah concerning the rights of neighbors. There are three categories of neighbors. We will deal with all of them inshallah, and we will see which each one of us should by now know. If we don't know who our neighbors are, then this is a super problem. Right? Because at least now we're addressing the issue, okay, I have some shortcomings concerning my neighbors. But the real problem is that nowadays some of us don't even know who the neighbors are. Especially if they've been living in the building for a couple of years and they run into each other once a year. And we will see mainly why. The main reason why you may run into your neighbor not so often is because usually they don't pray. Or they don't pray in the masjid. Otherwise, if you both prayed, even a different masajid, at least a few times a week you run into each other while both leaving for the salah. But Allah musta'an. The first, and I am by no means suggesting that you have to buy a house like this one over there. Okay, this is just something to show you about the neighbors and neighborhoods. But don't be thinking that we're advising you to buy a big old house and get a loan from the bank and then pay back an interest. A neighbor who enjoys three rights. That's the first category. The rights of a neighbor, obviously. The rights of Islam, if that person is a Muslim, a brother in faith and belief. Because you may have a neighbor who is not a Muslim. And thirdly, the rights of a relative if he or she is related. So you may have a neighbor who is a Muslim, related to you, and obviously a neighbor. They have three rights. Three rights in one. And when we violate some of their rights, then you are violating all these three rights. You're breaking the kinship ties, you're oppressing a Muslim, and you're not giving your neighbors their rights, which are due to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second category is the neighbor who enjoys two rights. The rights of a neighbor and, what do you think? The rights of Islam. If he's a Muslim but he may not be related, which is predominantly what we have today. Your non-Muslim neighbors may be a minority, and this is predominantly a Muslim country, so most likely your neighbor is a Muslim who's not a relative of yours. And the last one is the neighbor who enjoys only the rights of a neighbor. He is neither a Muslim nor your relative. And he has rights also. The rights. Treat them with good conduct. Some of us think that this life is a warfare. It's just war. You're in a war zone, and basically you're trying to take out as many as the enemies as you can. So people's attitude is like they're going out with weaponries and Uzis and machine guns and just shooting everybody and everyone around. This could manifest in many ways, and the worst of which is the bad attitude, bad conduct, behaving in a manner which negates the beautiful teachings of Islam. In this day and time, this can manifest in the way you drive your car and the way you park your car. very often, mashallah, tabarakallah, some people think that the only ones living in the street, and their car is the only car that deserves to be parked. Everybody else doesn't matter. So you find some people that would park in such a way where they block you, and you're unable to leave to work. You know, you start work at 7 in the morning, you go downstairs, and you have two cars, your neighbors in the same building, blocking you. So you have to honk the horn, no one answers, people are disturbed by your behavior now. You don't have their phone numbers because you're not good neighbors. We haven't established anything good with them to even call them, say, hey, you're blocking me. So you go knocking on the door, and you know his wife is behind the door saying he's sleeping. All these problems is because the man was not considerate enough to keep his car in a place wherein he's not blocking others. And this is something that we experience. The same thing can be said about salah and so on and so forth. Good conduct, be nice to them, be kind to them, treat them with respect. We have some narrations from the Prophet ﷺ which fortify this. The hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, the Prophet ﷺ said, the best of companions with Allah is the one who is best to his companions, and the best of neighbors with him is the one who is best to his neighbor. Subhanallah al-Azim. That's a great narration in Sahih Bukhari. The best of neighbors with Allah Azza wa Jal are those who are best to their neighbors today. So how many of us can earn this title? How many of us can stand up and say, don't do it, in case you are, can say, wallah, I think, mashallah, I'm the best neighbor anyone can have. My neighbors have never seen anything wrong, anything, I've never harmed them, never wronged them. I've been giving them their rights. Allah al-Musta'an. Allah al-Musta'an ala halina. In another narration, the Prophet ﷺ said, he will not enter Jannah whose neighbor is not secure from his wrongful conduct. Narrated by Muslim. And this is basically the neighbor who you avoid because you're afraid that contacting him or keeping contact will cause problems for you. Yani someone, and this is not only restricted to this. The Prophet ﷺ said in another hadith, the worst of people, the most evil of people in the sight of Allah on the day of judgment are those who people avoid because of their evil. Yani some people, you know, if you speak to them or if you open a discussion, he may get you, evacuated from the building, especially if he's the owner, the landlord of the building. If you get into a confrontation with him, the bottom line is that he will have you kicked out. People that you have to avoid because they're evil. These are the worst of people. And in this hadith, he will not enter Jannah. If your neighbor does not speak to you because he's worried about how you will behave with him, then we are in big trouble. And this salah and siyam and umrah and hajj and all these things we're doing may be of no value, because the Prophet ﷺ said he will not enter Jannah if one of our neighbors avoids us because of the way we behave, because of our oppression and wrongdoing. Allah al-Musta'an. By the way, Allah al-Musta'an, because many people ask, what does Allah al-Musta'an mean? Especially on the comments on YouTube. Allah al-Musta'an means Allah's aid is sought. And sought is the past tense and the past participle of seek. So you say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You seek Allah's assistance. Allah al-Musta'an meaning Allah's assistance is asked for, is sought, is looked for. We're seeking and we're wishing for Allah's assistance. And it comes in the Quran, especially Yaqub with Yusuf, وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ إِلَى آخِرِهِ مِنَ الْآيَاتِ. Second, don't cause them any harm. The Prophet ﷺ had said in the hadith of Abu Hurairah, he who believes in Allah in the last day, let him not harm his neighbor. And he who believes in Allah in the last day, let him show hospitality to his guest. And he who believes in Allah in the last day, let him speak good or remain silent. And the hadith is in Muttafaqun alayhi in Bukhari and Muslim. In this hadith, if we believe in Allah in the last day, let us not harm our neighbor. A classical example today of harming neighbors is a neighbor who smokes. And when he smokes, the whole building smokes. Not that everybody's puffing cigarettes with him, but the whole building stinks so bad. From the moment you enter through the gate, You can smell the shisha and the tobacco and all that stuff in the whole building. And who are the innocent victims? The poor children. The poor children who are forced to inhale air which has been contaminated with all kinds of diseases and bacteria and whatever else lives in these things. Especially tobacco has many different diseases in it, many different things that will harm the son of Adam. So you find a smoking neighbor, either smoking downstairs. When you're trying to leave the house, you have to smoke along with him until you make it to your car, or they smoke in their house. So the smoke goes, by the way, it creeps under the door, the little opening, the little crack at the bottom. The smoke goes out. It doesn't remain in the house. It will find a place to leak through, and it will leak. And then everyone will be affected by the smoke. A second way people harm their neighbors is with music. Loud music. Especially if they have some wild teenagers who think they are in a rock band, or that they're 50 halalas, or they're likes. So he turns on the music in the morning or in the evening, and he's bumping his head, and the neighbors upstairs are trying to listen to the Quran, and they can no longer focus because the music downstairs is disturbing them, or next door or above them. It doesn't matter. And people don't pay attention to these things. They say, what's the big deal? It's a big deal. And on the day of judgment, as the Prophet ﷺ said in Hadith Abu Hurairah in Sahih Muslim, that a person, he said to the Sahaba, أَتَدْرُونَ مَنِ الْمُفْلِسِ? Do you know who's the one who's bankrupt? The one who doesn't have any fulus, any money? This is what the term means. Muflis, you don't have anything. So the Sahaba answered with what they logically know. They said, Al-Muflis minna man la dirham lahu wa la mata'. A bankrupt person amongst us is one who doesn't have any currency, doesn't have any clothing, doesn't have anything of the dunya. He said, no. The muflis, the bankrupt in my ummah, is one who will come on the day of judgment with salah and sadaqah and siyam. But he will come having wronged this person, oppressed this person, spilled the blood of that person. Yani he will come with oppression to the people, so they will take away from his good deeds until when he runs out of good deeds, their bad deeds will be taken from them, placed on him, then he'll be thrown in a fire. Pay attention now. We can be doing a lot of good, and we can be wronging a lot of people simultaneously. Those wrongdoings will take away and invalidate these good deeds. The person, your neighbor, who had to listen to your junk and smell your smoke and deal with your nonsense, on the Yawm al-Qiyamah he will come and take all of your good deeds according to how much you've wronged him. And when you run out of good deeds, his evil deeds will be taken from him and given to you. Then which Jannah are we going to enter? The matter is not light. So when we live, we need to remain within the boundaries. You have neighbors, your children are, they think they're, WWF wrestlers. All day they're jumping on the floor. You have neighbors downstairs that can't sleep because of you wild children. You have to contain your children. Bring what you call that thing that they bounce on? Trampoline? Yeah, and let them, if they want to jump, let them jump on it, so the neighbors won't have to hear their bouncing and their pounding on the floor. Rent the roof in your building. Take him to the moon, if this is feasible nowadays. But don't harm your neighbors. Children can be running around in the house while the people downstairs are trying to sleep. They have work the next day. Somebody's studying for exams. These are things which you may not pay attention to, but these are very important things. Otherwise your neighbor will be making dua against you day and night. You and your children. And naturally when he sees you, he doesn't want to speak to you. He has so much hatred, so much rage against you because of his sufferings, without you even knowing that when he sees you, he wants to run in the opposite direction. So we need to be mindful and considerate on our own. We don't have to wait for the complaint to come. We don't have to wait for him to knock, say, please, have mercy on me. We should be considerate enough. If you live in your own mansion, you don't have to worry about all this. But if you're living in a building with other people, then we need to be mindful of those whom we are living with. Abu Hurairah reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, by Allah, he is not a believer Second time, by Allah, he is not a believer. By Allah, he is not a believer. It was asked, who is that? Who is the one whom the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is negating belief from? Who is he? He said, one whose neighbor does not feel safe from his evil. A'udhu billah. You will not be a true believer. We will not be true believers if our neighbors are worried about the evil which we are spreading in the neighborhood. طيب. Third right, share your food with them. And if you eat spicy food and they don't, make it mild. Hint. Anywho, this is where the actual half the soup came from. So let me just give it to you so I will not tease you anymore. Yes, I'm sorry. This looks yummy to some, and to some people the soup is the last thing they will ever eat. But anyways, Abu Dharr reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded me, saying thus, "O Abu Dharr, whenever you prepare soup, put plenty of water in it and give some of it to your neighbors." And our Salaf, our righteous predecessors, were amazing people. One of them would buy some fruits, for example, and vegetables, and he would avoid bringing them home at a time where his neighbor or the children could see it, specifically if they were poor, because he would be afraid that he would come in with a big bag of apples and the neighbor cannot afford to buy apples for his children. And when the children see the apples, they will say, "Dad, our neighbor got some apples, we want some apples, he doesn't have any money to get him apples, this will cause grief for the whole family." So he would never do that. They will bring in the stuff at a time where no one can see them, they will hide them, or they will split it with them. How nice is it for you to buy something, even if it's fruits, you find them on sale. Sometimes you know the bananas, at least in Saudi Arabia, 3 kilos are for 10 riyals. Everybody knows that outside the masjid. And 3 kilos, some mashallah, is a lot. You know, sometimes even if you have 3-4 children, they're eating bananas every day, some of them will go bad before you finish them. Tayyib. Knock on the neighbor's door and give him a few bananas. You've had multiple rewards. You've done good to them. It's a sadaqah. You shared the food. You know, you instilled love with the Muslim, with your neighbor. Allah knows how many would someone may enter Jannah because of a banana. Don't belittle that. Don't you know the hadith of the Jewish woman who was used to sell her honor, and she seen a dog that was on the verge of dying, and so she gave him some water. Allah Azza wa Jal appreciated her effort, and Allah forgave her sins, and He permitted her Jannah. A woman who was, you know, today you will label her as the worst woman in the world, right? Another woman on the other hand had a cat whom she didn't provide food, nor did she let the cat go outside and eat from whatever she can catch in the grass and, you know, grasshoppers, and the cat died out of starvation. Allah put her in Jahannam because of a cat. So we learn in Islam that we don't belittle anything. Even a smile on your brother's face, is a sadaqah. It is means of getting Allah's reward and attaining His pleasure. So a banana, an apple, or a soup can be means to please Allah and give the neighbors their rights. This is the nasiha, the advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Abu Dharr. Fourthly, give them gifts. Abu Hurairah reported that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "O Muslim women, no one of you or none of you should consider insignificant a gift to give to her neighbor, even if it is the trotters of a sheep." And even if you give her some part of meat, some small part of a sheep which you slaughter, do not consider it insignificant. Do not belittle anything which you give to your neighbor. So the women amongst each other and the men amongst each other should give each other gifts to the best of their ability. It doesn't have to be something fancy. When was the last time your neighbor gave you his car? Never. It doesn't happen. Let's be real. and so we don't expect you to give him a car either. However, there are things which we can afford. There are small things which we can afford. For example, you go to one of the supermarkets and they have a special offer. You buy something and you get a Pyrex with it, or some nice pot or something along these lines. And it's a good deal. And for the woman knows that her neighbor can benefit from this, because she knows that she benefits from this. So she gets one for her and one for the neighbor. How beautiful is that? How much love would be instilled in the hearts of both when small gifts, which don't cost much money, are given and shared and exchanged between the neighbors. So these are the advices of the Prophet ﷺ to the Muslims. In another hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, I said, O Messenger of Allah, I have two neighbors. To which of them should I send a present? Look at her state of mind, radiallahu anha wa ardaha. She has a present and now she's sitting there calculating. And look how keen the Sahaba were on gaining reward and following the Sunnah. She did not depend on her intellect. Now that she had the niyyah, the intention to give a gift, let me ask the Messenger of Allah, who is more deserving? With whom will I get a greater reward? Subhanallah al-Azim. Sometimes we don't pay attention. We don't have this subtlety. We don't have this, accuracy in seeking the Sunnah. But that's how the Sahaba used to be. He replied, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to the one whose door is nearer to you. So the closer the neighbor, the greater the right. That doesn't mean that the one who's far has no right, but it just means that their right is greater. Don't prevent them from placing a peg on adjacent walls. Now this may not be applicable today, but what is intended here, back then they would have a tent. And if he were to erect a tent, he may need something, he may need your wall to keep it firm. So do not be like, وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَعُونَ. Someone asks you for something very insignificant and you say no. Help them out. Do not be a source of harm. Do not prevent them from basic things which will facilitate their lives. And today we can look at it in a number of angles. If nobody's erecting tents anymore, then your neighbor may ask, for example, let's say they're getting some internet wiring, some DSL, some phone line, whatever, and the phone jack is on the other side of the building. And instead of going all the way around, you can allow them to have a wire through your house. Save them money, save them time, save them headache. So this is something basic. And don't say, Wallah, no. I'm sorry, I don't have any wires at home. How do you not have any wires at home? Everybody's home has wires. Another extra wire is going to do them a great favor. It's not going to affect your life. They'll put it on top and they have nails to keep it nice and neat. It's not like it's going to be hanging in the middle of the house, children tripping over it every time they walk, in that direction. So little things of this nature, as they say, come on now. Abu Hurairah reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, no one should prohibit his neighbor from placing a peg in his wall. Abu Hurairah added, now I see you turning away from the Sunnah, but by Allah I shall go on proclaiming it. Now he's saying this back at the time of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, that the people already started abandoning the Sunnah. Not all of them, of course, but it was not as strong. Now we know now. Even the Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahaba, فَإِنَّهُ مَنْ يَعِشْ مِنْكُمْ فَسَيَرَ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Whosoever lives amongst you after me shall see a lot of differences. So we know that differences took place. So even back then, this was being undermined. Then what about today? Allah al-Musta'an. Sixth right, visit them if they are sick. And how often has one of our neighbors died and we did not even know that they were sick? We only knew that they died after we seen, a lot of people coming in and out, and people coming downstairs, ambulance, whatever. Otherwise, many of us don't even know that the neighbor is sick. And look at the Prophet ﷺ on the other hand. Look how lousy we are. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. Anas reported that there was a Jewish boy, FYI, who used to serve the Prophet ﷺ. He felt sick and the Prophet ﷺ came to visit him. He sat at his head and said to him, embrace Islam. That's the da'wah. The boy looked towards his father, who was with him. His father said, obey Abu al-Qasim. Who's Abu al-Qasim? The Prophet ﷺ. This was his kunya. In English they call it nickname. It's your nickname. So if your name is Ahmed and your son is Umar, we call you Abu Umar. Or you can be Abu whatever, even if you don't have such a child. We can call you Abu Maryam, even if you don't have Maryam. Because the Prophet ﷺ called the brother of Anas, the young boy, he called him Abu Umair. And he was a tiny boy who used to have a pet bird that died. So the Prophet ﷺ would play with him and say, Ya Abu Umair, ma fa'ala al-Nughayr? Oh Abu Umair, what happened to your bird? What did your bird do? And he called him Abu Umair. Abu Umair didn't have any Umair. He himself was young. Aisha radiallahu anha, what was her kunya? Ya Shaykh. What was the kunya of Aisha radiallahu anha? Umaysh. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. If I asked about now, a cricket hero, ala tool, maybe someone will give me his biography. Born 1975. Crashed his car when he was 2 years old. He became a big cricket, jumbo. Huh? Abdullah. Abdullah. The kunya of Aisha radiallahu anha is Abdullah. Did she have Abdullah? She never gave birth to any children from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But that was her kunya. She seen other wives had kunya. She wanted a kunya. That was the kunya she took up. Ala kulli hal. Jazakallah khairan, sister, for the answer. So Abu al-Qasim was the kunya of the Prophet ﷺ. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but that should remind us that we should, spend some more time learning the basics of the deen before we watch television. And my suggestion is throw away the television. Anyways, so he embraced Islam. And the Prophet ﷺ went out saying, praise be to Allah who saved them from the fire. Narrated by Bukhari. Now this is a very important narration and interesting. I would like to elaborate briefly on it. The boy was Jewish. And he used to serve the Prophet ﷺ. Nowadays, the way the society works, illa ma rahim Allah, if someone is serving you, if someone works for you, that means that they're equal to cattle. They're equal to trees, chairs. They're not even human beings. The way some Muslims have developed a sick way of treating Muslims is totally unacceptable, but this is the situation. So the idea anyways of someone serving you naturally makes him inferior to you. And visiting someone who's inferior to you doesn't happen unless you are humble yourself. So here a Jewish boy serving the Prophet ﷺ, who is responsible for whole ummah, with the wives he had ﷺ, responsible for all these Muslims and their well-being, has the time to go and visit this Jewish boy. And he's not there to take flowers or give him a box of chocolate and go back. This is da'wah. The purpose of the visitation is da'wah. So when he went there, he didn't do anything, he didn't have discussions about politics and the dunya, whatever. He was straight to the point. Embrace Islam. And the religion of back, even today, but specifically back then, with the miracles that Prophet ﷺ was performing by Allah's will, the masses of people entering into Islam, the religion was known that this is the deen of Allah. Until today it remains. But being in the presence of the Prophet is obviously greater than being absent. So he told him, embrace Islam. The boy looked at his father. His father is what? A Jew. And his father tells him, obey Abu Qasim. Which means that he knew deep inside that Islam is the religion of Allah. And so he told the son, he knew his son was dying. He said, embrace Islam, go to Jannah. And he allowed him to embrace Islam, and the boy, died. The Prophet ﷺ said, alhamdulillah, who saved him from the fire. And that tells you that most non-Muslims know that Islam is the religion of Allah. However, worldly interests, position, desires, arrogance, pride, we have many factors which prevent people from accepting the truth. Otherwise, the truth is clear. Visiting them, the neighbor, if they're sick. In another hadith, everyone knows it, the rights of the Muslim. Every Muslim has 5 rights over another Muslim. To return the greetings, given the greetings is a sunnah, returning the greeting is an obligation. When you come in, it is recommended that you say Assalamu alaikum. And if someone says Assalamu alaikum, you must say Wa alaikum salam. It's no longer an option for you. Tayyib? Unless, as the scholars say, you were engaged in something like the recitation of the Quran or remembering Allah or something of this nature, and you're afraid that it will distract you and disturb you, some of the ulama say that you have a valid excuse. Otherwise, if you're not doing anything, you must return the salam. To visit the sick, which is a point, the shahid of the hadith, to accompany funeral processions, to accept an invitation and to respond to the sneezer. If you say Yarhamukallah, if he says Alhamdulillah. Some people want to be super righteous, but they wind up going off track. As soon as someone sneezes, say Yarhamukallah. La. You're not allowed to say Yarhamukallah until he says Alhamdulillah. If he doesn't say Alhamdulillah, no Yarhamukallah. That's how the Sunnah teaches us. That's what Rasulullah taught. Did he say Alhamdulillah? No, then no Yarhamukallah. And you must hear it. You must hear Alhamdulillah to say Yarhamukallah. Then of course you say Yahdikumullahu wa yuslihu balakum. Seventh right, offer condolences and help if calamity befalls them. Yani your neighbor should depend on you at the time of difficulty. Specifically expatriates. Those who are living here, for example, and they're here for work, and their family predominantly is back home, or they may have some relatives here who don't live in the immediate area, they're little far remote areas. And in which case, who do you depend on? When you need someone, for example, la qaddar Allah, there was an accident, and you had to run, go to somewhere and help someone else, and your children are at home. Who do you depend on to watch them in your absence? You may not have relatives that are close enough to take care of them. You must be able to depend on your neighbor. So then there should be this element of providing help once calamity occurs and befalls them. Don't wait for them to ask. We should offer. Is there anything I can do for you? Do you need anything? And of course if someone passes away, then you offer them condolences. You don't go to their house and eat as many people think. Let me go back, because I see you reading and I really want you to understand this point. We have a lot of misconceptions and a lot of innovations when it comes to the funeral rites and rulings. The most common practice, if someone dies, they make food, they sit at home, have a bunch of red chairs and put lights outside and curtains. You think there's a wedding. You think there's a wedding, but it's a funeral. Then if they really want to go to extreme, they bring a qari, right, to come and recite the Quran, and then people come and they start shaking hands with everyone and having dinner, coffee, qahwa, shay. Bid'ah. Big bid'ah. In fact, the Sahaba said, we used to consider if the people whose family, some of their family members passed away, if they offered you food, they considered part of niyaha. It's a part of wailing. It's a form of wailing, meaning they're displeased with Allah's decree. The sunnah is that you make food for them. Yani if somebody amongst your neighbors dies, you make food. And you take it to them because now they don't have time to cook. So you provide them with food and you don't go sit there at the house and wait for people to come. You go about your business. When the people run into you, they give you the ta'ziyah, the condolences, and life goes on. Waiting for the people and having 3 days, every day people come, have no basis in the sunnah. And inshallah next year, if you all remain alive, we will have a special lecture about the etiquettes of funerals and the sunnah in the funerals and the innovations, so everyone will know how to deal with things when they die. Oh, that's not going to happen. It'll be too late. When someone dies, or somebody will know how to deal with us when we die, wallah al-musta'an. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, to Allah belongs that which He has taken and that which He gives. This is the condolence. And with Him everything has an appointed end, so be patient and seek reward. This is the sunnah and ta'ziyah. لله ما أخذ وله ما أعطى وكل شيء عنده بقدر أو في رواية بأجل مسمى فاصبر واحتسب. We need to memorize these ad'iyah in Arabic. We need to memorize them in Arabic so we can use them at the time of condolences. And if the person doesn't speak Arabic, then you translate it to English or Urdu or whatever language you speak. But we should try to apply the sunnah and give the condolences in Arabic. Abu Ja'far, Abdullah ibn Ja'far, reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, prepare some food for the family of Ja'far. That's the sunnah. For what has befallen them is keeping them preoccupied. So when something happens, you make food for your neighbor. And it doesn't have to be only condolences or death. Any situation which arises where they are busy with something, someone was arrested in their family, something along these lines, and they don't have the means to take care of themselves, the neighbor comes for their aid. I'll watch the children. Here's some food. I'll take him to school. I'll pick up your children from school. Don't worry. We need to offer a hand of help. Don't close the door, lock it, say, I don't know what's happening in the neighborhood. I don't know what's happening with my neighbors. This is unbefitting of a Muslim. We don't act this way. Conceal their faults. Abu Hurairah reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever conceals the faults of a Muslim, Allah will conceal his faults in this world and the hereafter. Yani if they have some problems, especially among the sisters. Now, alhamdulillah, we believe the sisters who have been attending these lectures and attending other lectures have, mashallah, I believe the whole group we have improved, inshallah ta'ala. To a large extent, everyone's religious commitment, inshallah, is getting stronger. But still we have elements that are a little, affecting the community. Specifically issues of gossiping and backbiting. Brothers and sisters, Yani when we come together, we should try to conceal the faults of the neighbor. Unless in the 6 exceptions which we have mentioned before, that you can find in Riyadh al-Salihin of Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah, the 6 exceptions of backbiting, where you have a valid reason to mention something, seeking advice or fatwa or what have you. Otherwise, we try to conceal their faults, don't expose them. So a sister shouldn't be sitting with another neighbor telling her, did you see what the other lady did yesterday? Did you see what our neighbors upstairs did? Blah, 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 blah happened. And she went and opened the window, try to conceal the faults. Why? Because we all have faults. And if we want Allah to conceal our faults in this dunya and in the hereafter, then let us zip it concerning others. If we don't conceal our faults, we may be exposed. So as they say, كَمَا تَدِينُ تُدَانُ. The way you treat, you will be treated. A system in the times of need, I've elaborated on that already, but here the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah will aid a servant of his so long as the servant aids his brother. Allahu fi awn al-abdi ma kana al-abdu fi awni akhi. As long as we are providing help for a Muslim, then Allah will continue to provide one of us with help. Subhanallah al-Azim. Now, pay attention now. When one of us offers help, aid, what is the most you can do? How much power do you have? We're incapable of doing anything. Really? The best we can do is something very insignificant. So the help that one of us provides could be worth this. But when Allah helps someone, how about that? Yani if you're weak helping someone, then your help will be weak also because it's being generated from a weak source. When the help comes from the Dhul Quwwah, إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ ذُو الْقُوَّةِ الْمَتِينَ. Allah is the one who is the most powerful, the irresistible. When help comes from Allah, then you cannot even measure that. You cannot even put numbers on it, any figures on it. So we help our brothers with something minor, and we get major and great help from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. This is the business that we're getting involved in. Guide them to that which will benefit them in their religious and worldly affairs. وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Let there arise out of you a group of people inviting to all that is good, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, and it is those who are successful. So, when we see our neighbors, generally speaking, brothers and sisters in Islam, but specifically our neighbors and relatives, when we see they are falling into violations, then we need to advise them. But we need to do so with wisdom, because sometimes if you try to advise your neighbor straight to their face and they don't accept the advice, it may ruin the relationship. It may jeopardize your relationship with them. So that neighborly attitude is gone. So we have to be very delicate in the approach. And this requires patience. You may have to wait for the right time. If you don't think that the relationship is strong enough to advise, strengthen the relationship. Invite them over for tea. Tfaddal, have some tea in my house. Once you reach a point where they're comfortable with you, then you say, Ya akhi, barakallah fik, I have noticed that such and such has happened, or that you are, not coming for Salatul Fajr, or you don't pray in the masjid with us, or your children, were cursing downstairs. Then you can come and provide them with advice. But we do not let our neighbor lead the life of wickedness, and we try to live a life of righteousness, and we say, Wallah, this is their business. La. There must be compassion, love, consideration to others, so that we love for our brothers and sisters what we love for ourselves. And the neighbor has a greater right in doing so. So, before I say the dua, because it's not the longest lecture you've had, alhamdulillah, seriously, we need to reconsider the way we are acting with our neighbors. I advise myself and you to do two things. First, one concerning us, and second, concerning them. Concerning us, let us not harm our neighbors anymore. Anything which can be a potential source of harm, let us avoid it and leave it alone. And I gave you some examples of the children making noise, music, smoking, what have you. That's the first thing. Let us at least not harm them, so they will not be taken from our good deeds on Yawm al-Qiyamah. This is the minimum. On the other hand, let us get to know our neighbors. Let us establish a strong relationship. The Sahaba were very strong in their bond, and this is what strengthened the society, the community, and the ummah at large. Everything begins, mountains are made out of pebbles. A mountain initially is small rocks. You put them together until it becomes huge. So these little things, if each one of us got to know his neighbor and gave them their rights and received their rights from their neighbor, and this is how we dealt with each other in a building, then the building with the one next to it, then the one next to it with the one next to it, what do you think this district will become like? They will become a single brotherhood and sisterhood. Anytime someone needs something, if they need a plumber, we know a plumber in our neighborhood who's trustworthy, he will not cheat you. You need an electrician, they bring an electrician. They may put together organizations, they may achieve many things that could never be achieved if every one of us is living on his own. Does not know people around him, does not know his neighbors. So let us take this into consideration and strive to provide our neighbors with their rights as means of pleasing Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. If we are obeying Allah and His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if we are dutiful to our parents, and if we are giving our neighbors their rights, then inshallah we are securing a place in Jannah, because in this dunya we are doing what Allah wants, and on the Day of Judgment we have not done something which will take away from our good deeds. And this is how one guarantees success. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Any questions? Before you ask any questions, let me ask you a question. How many of us know every single neighbor in the building? Raise your hand. If you know everyone in the building, not that you know that they live there, like I know there's one living on the 3rd floor, 2nd floor. You know them. One person. And is it mashallah, more than one person. Is it because you are already related? It's just because of your, some of the things we mentioned? Jazakumullah khair. No, not because of that either? Is it because you try to fulfill the neighbor's rights, or by... Yes? You're confused. I confused you. Do you know your neighbors because you've already known these narrations and mashallah you've been putting them into practice? Just, from the same country, sometimes people from the same country, they get along more than people from different countries. Anyways, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like, the Indians get along and the Arabs get along and everybody gets, and then there's no, compatibility with the rest. Now a Muslim is a Muslim brother to a Muslim. Period. Nothing else matters. Okay, that was my question. Any other questions?
This rules only for the Muslims?
I'm sorry?
These rules only for the Muslims?
No, we said these are for the three categories of neighbors. The one who's a Muslim has the right of the Muslim treatment over that of being a neighbor in and of its own. And if he's a relative, then the rights of a relative and a Muslim and a neighbor. But if we had a neighbor, like the Jewish boy, if we had a neighbor who's not a Muslim, all of these apply. Except, for example, matters that are strictly for the Muslims. So if he sneezes, and you don't say, for example, Yarhamukallah, and things of this nature, things that are strictly for Muslims are exempt. But the general things of sharing with them and being kind to them, advising them, giving them da'wah, yes, this applies for the Muslim and the non-Muslim, for sure. Yes, Akhi.
If the non-Muslim say salam, assalamu alaikum, what they should say?
Wa alaikum.
Just one.
Wa alaikum, that's it.
And that also wajib.
Allahu a'lam. I've never come across a fatwa, but usually because of the general meaning of the ayah, that if you've been given a greeting, so respond with it or something better. And so based on this general understanding, you return the salam, but you don't say wa alaikum as-salam, you say wa alaikum. This is the safest opinion, even though some of the scholars have said, if you're sure they didn't say assalamu alaikum, may poison be upon you, then you may say wa alaikum as-salam. But that is a little, not very strong. So we avoid it and we stick to say wa alaikum. Usually they don't know the difference. Say wa alaikum, good morning, how are you? Change the subject. Don't give them a chance to think about it, or say maybe they know. So that the wisdom here entails, you change the subject. Hey, is that a new shirt? Say, oh yeah, I got the shirt, khalas. Forget about, the whole thing. Practical da'wah tips. Anything else?
Regarding this lecture, how many houses will come under the consideration of the neighborhood?
A very good question, and really because there's such a huge difference of opinion among the scholars concerning that. This issue wasn't really addressed. Some of them considered 40 to your right and to your left, and in whichever direction, and the scholars have differed on that. So I really don't want to give anything that I don't have any firm information concerning. But let's say for now, the immediate people that are immediately near you, these are the ones that, and even those who are farther. But the ones that are closest, then these are the ones who deserve the most rights. Now usually we're not even doing the ones next to us, let alone the one who's living down the street. But if one is able to bring all these benefits together, barakallah fiqh. But Allahu A'lam, their scholars have differed as to how many, is it numbers, is it direction, is it, distance, they have differed. Anyone else?
Now from here we learn that how you have to be, how you have to behave. But in some cases, if you have an evil neighbor who's regularly torturing you, so in that case, how you have to handle things?
But before I answer the question, because I see some people are leaving, just a quick announcement. MashaAllah, you guys in a hurry, huh? Tomorrow, there will be a lecture at the GreensideDawah Center for the Shabab and the Banat, for the youth only. Parents can drop them off and hang out in the Dawah Center, in the women's section for the women, brother section for the men, or if you want to go out and have dinner or supper while the children. But there's a special lecture to the Shabab titled, Are You Cool or Not? Okay? So it's right after Asr, so it is preferred that you pray Asr in the GreensideDawah Center area. There's a masjid down the street. Pray Asr over there, bring your children, special lecture for the children, brothers and sisters, young boys and young girls, even teenagers, mafi mushkila. But the parents need to stay awake, because we want to have a little, heart-to-heart talk. And we don't want the parents to kind of cloud, the atmosphere. When your father's in the background, you don't really feel very good sometimes. So inshallah, we'll try to make it happen. Everyone is invited to come for the boys and girls. Now, the question, if they're evil, then you give them this lecture. Yes, listen brother, you better fear Allah before you go to Jannah, because the way you're treating me. That's it. And you advise them, of course. Some of the neighbors who are citizens do not welcome us, does not want to keep relation with us, though we want to keep. What do you do in such a situation? You continue. If they have an issue, if they have discrimination issues or racism instilled in their blood, then you avoid that harm and you continue to be kind to them. You fulfill your rights towards them. If they don't want to fulfill their rights towards you or your rights, because of their shortcomings, that's none of your business. But you still do what we mentioned. You still share with them. You still give them, just for the sake of Allah. It's for the sake of Allah. If they, you continue to do what you're doing, Allah Azza wa Jal will reward you bi'idhnillah Azza wa Jal with goodness. MashaAllah, this is an essay. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. Someone borrowed $50. And then they repaid me by giving me $60 and told me take the $10 as a gift. Is the $10 considered riba? Allahu A'lam. The reason why I'm saying that is because the contract, the person did not stipulate this increase. And the scholars, there are some narrations which may suggest that if you pay someone back and you want to give them a gift for their kindness, not as an interest that they're imposing on you, that this is fine. But again, I would prefer that I refer back to the fatwa of the scholars, and inshallah in the next lecture we will try to address this particular point so we can be upon clarity. Until then, Allahu A'lam. Allahu A'lam. For now, just keep the $50 until keep the $10 pending. Once I get the fatwa, then you can give it to me then if it's correct. Second question, a Muslim brother was interviewed by a non-Muslim woman for a job. At the end of the interview, she stretched out her hand to shake his, but he did not shake her hands. Is this right? Is this the right thing he did? Yes, it is. And may Allah reward him with goodness for his adherence to the deen at the time of temptation and testing and trials. Because that was his test from Allah. Is that job going to be blessed? Or is it going to be a source of destruction? It usually has to do with whether you agree on some haram things or otherwise. So the fact that he did not do that is a very, very, very good sign, which inshallah Allah will appreciate. Allah is shakur. He is grateful and thankful. And inshallah if you don't get this job, rest assured that it was no good to begin with. Yani if they don't hire you because of that action of yours, then Allah saved you from a job which could have destroyed your life. And what is waiting for you is far better bi'idhnillah. If you get the job, then you got the job with an honor. You got a job while keeping your dignity and your religious commitment. So it's a win-win situation for the believer. Ahsant. MashaAllah alayk. Usually we hear the other way around. Then I shook my hand. Is that okay? No, it's not okay if you shook her hand. If a non-Muslim neighbor give us birthday cake, what can we do? Or any food from un-Islamic celebrations? Well, this is another issue which the scholars have differed concerning. Don't eat the cake. Don't eat the cake. And explain to them why. To be honest with you, the only time this happens is when we have failed to teach our neighbors the Islamic teachings. Every non-Muslim should by now, especially if in a Muslim country, they should know that we don't engage in these things. They should know from your friendliness towards them, your kindness towards them, and the way you lead Islam, that these are things that you don't get involved in. And these are things that you could hint at while meeting your neighbor before you get to this situation where you are, put to the test. So when you're gathering, say, as Muslims and give da'wah, you can tell we don't do this, we don't do that. Somehow you can, squeeze this in the speech. So they will know already and they will not put you in this predicament. However, if you reach that point, you cannot eat it, apologize, in a good manner and explain to them the reason why, that, you're not trying to turn them down on anything. Any other occasion where the cake is not that of a birthday, you'll be more than happy to eat the whole cake. And you can make a joke which will make them forget it. Say, slice, any event where there's a whole cake that is not a birthday, it will be my pleasure to eat the whole thing. And I will give you, you can make a joke in such a way where they don't feel offended, but you cannot take it. No cake, no other food which is specific to their religions. Yes? Sister standing?
Regarding the Tahir Masjid, especially the camp mosque, which is it is built for during the project season. once the camp is full, maybe the...
This is not a masjid, it's a musalla.
Yeah.
No tahiyyat masjid.
Okay.
Go in there and sit. If you want to pray the sunan, al-rawatib, la bas. But if you come in at a time like after Asr, you come in before Maghrib, which is a time of prohibition, you definitely do not pray. Because it's a musalla.
Even though the Salat al-Jumu'ah is conducted in that mosque.
And 5 daily prayers as well?
Yes.
And they were relocated?
No, that is a camp, for example, in the seaport area, there's a camp mosque. So they are conducting some dawah.
But does it move around or is it permanent?
It's a camp, below the camp. Maybe once the camp closes, it will be because the container.
Allahu A'lam. The scholars do mention if the Salat al-Jumu'ah is held in this place of worship and the 5 daily prayers and there's an imam, then the scholars label this as a masjid. The issue is that a masjid should not be moved around. A masjid cannot be demolished, and relocated. Once it's there, it's there. So this is where the issue is, that they may be relocating, then they're violating the right of that masjid. But if, according to what you mentioned, then you pray tahiyyat al-masjid.
And for example, like the dawah activity is going on, we pay the tahiyyat al-masjid and we sit. We won't take wudu. And each time when we go and come out, we have to pray the tahiyyat al-masjid.
If the wudu area is close enough to the masjid, it's close enough, it's just right outside, then no, you don't. But if you wind up going across the street, if you go beyond I guess you can say the border of the actual masjid, then if you go beyond that, you have to make tahiyyat al-masjid again. If it's within that and the masjid, the bathroom is close or nearby, then you don't.
This for any mosque?
Any masjid. For example, most of the masajid now, the hammam is right next to the masjid. This is fine. But if you're going across the street, you're going somewhere else. For example, this masjid here, behind IMC, the actual bathroom is across the street. And if you were to cross that street, news the hammam, come back, you pray tahiyyat al-masjid, because you went far enough.
Is Salat al-Jumu'ah a necessary condition? Because the mosque, the musalla in offices or in the compounds, we usually don't pray Salat al-Jumu'ah there. So tahiyyat al-masjid is...
No, then you don't pray tahiyyat al-masjid.
So in offices or masjid like here?
You don't pray tahiyyat. Masjid like this one here? Yeah, same thing. But I've advised brothers over and over again, do not pray in this place. Do not pray in this place. It is not an appropriate place for you to pray. The women are to the left. The barrier, but the segregation, if there's any, is not really valid, because you can see through it. This is what I remember from seeing back then. And the masjid is just behind the IMC. And I specifically make the timing so that anyone can pray masjid, Salatul Isha in the masjid and have enough time to make it here. And I make the time, proportional to the time of Salah. So no one is required or is advised or expected to pray here to make it. If we all prayed, a few brothers who were here, we all prayed in the same masjid. We pray every time, alhamdulillah, and we make it right on time. So this musalla, khali wali, as they say. Alhamdulillah. And all musallas, as long as you can pray in the masjid, do not pray in the musalla. That's the general advice. So the lecture tomorrow, inshallah, GreensideDawah Center. Everybody knows where it is? Tayyib?
Will it be uploaded to YouTube?
What?
Tomorrow's lecture.
Tomorrow's lecture, I doubt it. Allahu A'lam. The cameraman, I don't know, Sheikh Jamil, his timing. But Allahu A'lam. Either way, I'll try my best, inshallah. But bring your children. Doesn't matter. 3 years old, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, ما في مشكلة. GreensideDawah Center. Medina Road. Until you make it to Hira Street. Okay, there's a kubri. You make the bridge, you make a left. It becomes a one-way street. On your left there's a KFC. Okay? Make a left at KFC, so Hira is behind you now. At the end of that street on your right hand side, a huge villa. GreensideDawah Center, you cannot possibly miss it. The lecture will be 4:30 inshallah. 4:30 to the Shabab and Banat. Inshallah. Ibrahim, the DVDs last time, was miscommunication between me and the brothers. I had موجود الDVD ولا نسيته؟ موجود. The lecture about Sufism, Wahhabism and Tawassul is really this time available outside. if you wish to get it, because last time the brother, may Allah reward him with goodness and pardon him, forgot to bring the DVD after I made the announcement, so people went looking for it and they could not find it. But it is available outside right now. All three in one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Oh, too late.